Hello everybody, in this video I will talk about database normalization. Database is a collection of interrelated data. There are lots of advantages of the database. Previous to the database, files were used to store the data. The major limitation with the file system to store data is repetition of the same record within the file. But database, with the help of different kinds of constraints, enables users to reduce the redundancy. So in this video I will talk about normalization, not about the basics of the database. So in order to understand normalization, we have to understand functional dependency. What is functional dependency? Okay, functional dependency. The functional dependency is a relationship between different attributes of an object. Simply remember that it is a relationship between attributes of an object. Okay, suppose we have employee as an object with attributes employee ID, employee name, employee's post, employee's salary, employee's contact. Okay, here employee is an object and it is described by 5 different attributes in this example. So can we find a relationship between these attributes? Okay, let's suppose that employee ID is the primary key. What we can say is, if we know the value of primary key, then we can know the name of employee, we can know the post of the employee. That means here we can find relationship between employee ID and other attributes like employee name, post. So basically this functional dependency says if some attribute's value can be derived if you know the value of another attribute. Okay, here employee ID can derive employee's name or employee's post or even employee's contact number. So what we can say is employee name is functionally dependent upon employee ID, or employee's post is functionally dependent upon employee ID. We can write something like this: employee ID that will determine employee. This can be read as employee ID determines employee name, or we can say employee name is dependent upon employee ID also. Here employee ID is called determinant and employee name is dependent. So we can find relationship between attributes of one single entity. So functional dependency says there is a determinant with the help of which we can know the value of other dependent attributes. So in case of the normalization, the concept of functional dependency is very necessary to understand. There are different types of functional dependencies. Okay, first one is the partial dependency, another one is transitive dependency. In case of the fourth, fifth normal form, we can find multi-valued dependency or joint dependency, but we will be talking about partial dependency and transitive dependency only here. Now let's consider this employee object again, and suppose that the key attributes of this employee is employee ID and post. Two attributes are used to create key attribute for employee. Okay, it is very possible. It is not necessary that one single attribute should be used to make primary key or key. We can take combination of attributes to make key within the objects, and these objects are stored within the table in relational database. So when we consider two or more attributes as key attribute, then we may be able to find partial dependency within the entity. Here key attribute is formed with EID and post. There are two attributes within the key attribute, EID and post. So EID is one part of the key, post is another part of the key. So can we find dependency between this key attribute and non-key attribute? Okay, definitely it's possible, because key attributes determine the value of non-key attributes. So what we can say here is, you can say functional dependency EID comma post determines salary. Okay, because these are the key attributes, these are the determinants, and this will determine the value of salary. But in real world situations, what we know is, if we know post of employee, then we can know salary also. That means to know the salary, just knowing post is sufficient. Post can determine salary. Post is determinant and salary is dependent. What we can write here is functional dependency post implies salary. In the real world situation, that is very possible. If you know the post of the employee, then we can know salary of the employee also, because salary is determined by post. Now if we consider these two functional dependencies, we can find partial dependency. In this first functional dependency here, salary is dependent upon the part of key. The part is post. The post is sufficient to determine salary. So what we can say here is, the salary is partially dependent upon this determinant EID and post. Okay, so partial dependency means dependent variable is dependent upon the part of determinant. That is the partial dependency. And normalization says partial dependency should not exist within the database table. If there is a partial dependency within the database table, there will be different kind of anomalies. Basically update anomalies will be there. So we have to remove this partial dependency. Okay, this is about the partial dependency. Now let's move to another dependency, that is the transitive dependency. Transitive dependency. In this case, okay, let's consider our functional dependency from the employee. Employee ID, we can know employee post, and let's take another functional dependency, that is post will determine salary. So when we consider these two functional dependency, we can see something like this: employee ID determine salary. This is transitive dependency. From employee ID we can determine post, from post we can determine salary. So what we can say is, we can determine salary from EID also. With the help of these two given functional dependencies, we can say salary is functionally dependent upon employee ID. So this is called transitive dependency. Okay, this determines post, post determines salary. So what we can conclude is employee ID determines salary. So this kind of functional dependency, if we found within the database table, it will create problem. So this transitive dependency also should be removed from the database design. Okay, in the next presentation, next video, I will show you how to do database normalization. I will talk up to 3 normal forms, how to remove this partial dependency, and how to remove this transitive dependency. Okay, thank you very much for watching now.